So, Mr. Moore, you testified that you heard Devin Frost tell someone over the phone, "I promised you I would get the money. There's no use to use threats," didn't you?
Yes, that's correct.
And you now suspect this person over the phone to be Luke Contralto.
I do have suspicions.
And during your 2-week investigation of shallots, you noticed Luke Contralto lurking around shallots in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And you also saw burn marks on Devin Frost's hands.
As I saw, like several signs of abuse on her.
And you saw bruise marks on her neck, which you presume came from grabbing.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the night of March 19th. So, on the night of March 19th, you claim to have heard a conversation between Willie Freeman and Devin Frost.
I heard some of it.
And you, in your statement, you said that they were speaking in hushed, controlled tone.
Yeah.
And you also stated that there were loud clanging noises coming from the kitchen nearby.
Yes.
And you weren't even in the same room as these people.
Yeah.
And you can't recall any of the exact wording that was used in the conversation.
I heard quite clearly that Willie said at the very end, "You'll get your just desserts."
And you don't know the context of this conversation.
It came right after I told Willie Freeman that Devin has been stealing money from the shallots.
You don't know that if Willie Freeman was warning Devin Frost about Luke Contralto.
It could have been that.
Okay, let's talk about the buy-sell agreement. So, Mr. Moore, Devin Frost was the one who handled the financial aspects of the business. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And thus, Devin Frost would have been the one to implement the buy-sell agreement.
Yeah.
And the buy-sell agreement is a common business practice. And you even called it a smart business practice in your testimony.
In most cases, it is a good business practice.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and this witness be excused. Thank you. Would you give these exhibits over to my clerk, please? And the prosecution can call in this witness.
Prosecution would like to call Chris Riggs to the stand.
Mr. Riggs, please come forward and be sworn in.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give, faithfully and truthfully conforms to the facts and rules of the box of opposition? I do. Yes, you can state your name and spell your last name for the court.
My name is Chris Riggs, R-I-G-G-S.
What is your occupation?
I am a detective for the Irving Police Department. I'm also a 20-year veteran in law enforcement.
What's your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
What professional organizations have you served with?
Other than being a detective for the Urban Police Department, I have been closely working with the Seattle Police Department and the Seattle FBI offices.
What special awards or credentials do you have?
I've been awarded the Medal of Valor.
How's your sword in the focus?
Meritorious Medal. And my efforts have been recognized by Newsweekly, the 2020 news program, and also the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to recognize Detective Riggs as an expert witness, as he is qualified in criminal justice.
No objections, Your Honor.
You will be so received.
Can you tell the court about the internal affairs investigation of the
I was accused of tampering with evidence in a case involving Lou Contralto and his brother, but I was not convicted. I also was not impeded or suspended or
Who did you initially arrest in this case?
initially I arrested Lou Contralto because at first it looked like a mob hit sort of case, crime.
What do you think of Lou Contralto?
From I've always wanted to nail him and convict him for his heinous crimes that he developed and done.
How would this interfere with your professionalism in handling of this case?
In this case, it didn't interfere with my professionalism at all. I remained objective to anything that came my way so that I would look at all the facts.
What led you to reconsider that the defendant committed this act?
First of all, usually when a mob type crime, the victim will be physically abused before they actually kill them, like ice them and freeze them. But in this case, there was no recent physical abuse. And also, Devin Frost was still giving money to Lou Contralto, so he wouldn't want to.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge.
He has personal knowledge of this because Devin Frost has been making true of his payments to Lou Contralto, as will be testified later on.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
Amen.
It is not clear how Detective Christopher Riggs would know on how Devin Frost was making her payments to Lou Contralto. This is something that Ms. Frost would obviously know, and as would Lou Contralto, possibly Ms. Freeman, but it is not clear how Mr. Riggs knows.
At this point in time, it hasn't been established how this witness would know that particular bit of knowledge of conviction sustained.
Your Honor.
What motive did the defendant have?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation. Your Honor.
Who contacted you with information on this case?
Objection, Your Honor, repeating the question.
How is it suggesting the answer to the question? Yes, who?
Could I please hear the question again?
It's who contacted you?
Okay, my apologies, I thought I heard.
Overruled. Answer the question.
Yeah, the people.
Amen.
Who contacted you with information on this case?
I was contacted by Joel Bird, but I did not follow Louis because I figured that that Joel Bird was a waste of my time because he was a criminal who was convicted of fraud, so wasn't really trustworthy.
Your Honor, for the record, I have shown the council what has been marked as Exhibits 6 and 7. Your Honor, may I have permission to approach the witness?
Amen.
Can you identify these for the court?
Yes, this one is my original investigation report, and then this one is my supplemented investigation report.
What did your investigations turn out?
In my investigation, I found that Willie Freeman's fingerprints were on the door, the freezer door, the lock of the freezer, and the knife. I also found that there wasn't any sign of a struggle or break-in. Doors were all locked.
What was the determined cause of death?
The determined cause of death was hypothermia.
What was the Your Honor, for the record, I have shown the opposing counsel what has been marked as Exhibit 8. Can you identify this for the court?
This is a photograph of a message that Devin Frost left for us.
Why did Ms. Frost write this out?
Probably
Objection, Your Honor, this has not been entered into evidence, or my apologies. Could you repeat your question, please?
Why did Ms. Frost write this out?
Then I change my objection to speculation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, why did, in your expert opinion, why did Ms. Frost write this out?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Well, he is a detective. He has been offered and tendered as an expert in justice, and that was objected to. So at this point, it's not very real to ask the questions of the
So why did Ms. Frost write this out?
Based on my expert opinion, I would guess it's to leave us a clue as to who her killer was, but I might not know, but
No further questions, Your Honor.
cross.
Yes, Your Honor. So, Detective Riggs, you mentioned you've worked undercover for many years, isn't that correct?
yes, this is correct.
And this would be 6 years to be exact.
Yes,
And during this time, isn't it true that the line between your two lives became blurred at points?
yes, but I did remember that I was doing this to be involved with Lou, but then I was being involved with Lou Trumbo so that I could later convict him.
The answer to my question just now is yes.
Yes,
Okay. Now, just to be quick with the jury, this would be your two lives as a policeman and as a monster that you got confused, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
No, he can basically tell you what is going on with his two lives if he can answer the question. So it's a little.
Would you like to repeat the question?
yes, please.
So you're saying your two lives as a monster and as a policeman were confused? Correct.
As a policeman, an undercover policeman, and I guess an undercover policeman and an undercover mobster.
Moving on to your investigation, you were the one who conducted the investigation, correct? On Ms. Ross then.
Miss Sue?
Ms. Ross.
Yes.
And you conducted a secondary sweep of the crime scene, correct?
Could you repeat the question?
You conducted a secondary sweep of the crime scene.
Yes, I did.
And could you please tell the jury what day this happened? If you need a little refresher, it was on the 29th.
Yeah.
And so this was 10 days after the crime scene, after the death of Ms. Ross, isn't that correct?
Yes.
So 10 days before you found the fingerprints of Ms. Freeman on the 3CR and on the night. A lot could happen in 10 days, couldn't it, Detective Riggs?
I guess, but I figured since one of the company owners was killed, that the company would probably temporarily close.
But
so
you don't
then
know this for
no
a
one-
fact.
I guess you could say that.
Now, let's turn to what you found. You photographed the crime scene, correct?
Yes.
And you photographed a photograph of the fingertips you found there, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to turn your attention to Exhibit 8, which has previously been entered into evidence. Now,
Hang on a second. Exhibit 8 has not been entered into evidence.
1 minute, because I would like to enter it into evidence. Please note that I'm showing opposing counsel a copy. Will this make a copy?
Objection, Your Honor, this has not been identified by the witness. So, and there's, so therefore there's no
Hang
proper
on, stand up when you
foundation.
address the court,
There's
please.
no proper foundation to enter into.
Overruled, on direct, Detective Riggs identified Exhibit 8, and where he came up with that particular information, it has been identified.
Now,
Any other objections to it? Yes or no?
No objections, Your Honor.
Then it is received as evidence.
The defense offers Exhibit 8 into evidence, and so in this photograph it says the word killer, correct?
Correct.
And it also has the letter L following that, doesn't it?
Objection, Your Honor, this is a speculation.
What is your response to that?
I believe in Detective Briggs' second preliminary report, he did say this looks like the letter L.
That's a decision that doesn't necessarily need an expert opinion to sustain the objection.
Now, Detective Briggs, there are two big exhibits following the word killer, aren't there?
Yes.
And they're arranged almost at a 90-degree angle,
More on his angle,
almost at a 90-degree angle.
I guess. Yeah, sort of.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor, I wish to redirect. Why do you have connections with Blue Contralto and the mob?
That way I could, why? Because I was undercover and I was undercover, that way I could, convict them of crimes that they had committed.
What are the questions?
Recross on that point?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Briggs, you were under suspicion and investigated following the dropping of charges of Lou, following your investigation into his mom, isn't that correct? You were investigated for suspicion following the dropping of Lou's charges, isn't that correct? Following your investigation into his mob,
Yes, but I was not convicted.
so you were.
Objection, Your Honor, character evidence is not admissible.
Hang on. This information was discussed by the prosecution initially. That was part of the first questions that were asked about, tell the court about the internal affairs. So to the extent that the prosecution has entered or offered that particular bit of information, the objection on that point
Objection, Your Honor, this is asked and answered.
is overruled on that point.
Thank you.
So, just to be
Could you
clear
repeat
on
the
that.
question, please?
So you were investigated for suspicion following the dropping of Lou's charges, which you investigated from the mob hit, and your involvement in the mob, isn't that correct?
Yes, that is.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, now this was a slip down?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. You're excused. Prosecution may call the next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call the consultant to the stand.
Alto, please come forward to be sworn in.
Mr. Chairman, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give truthfully and faithfully, along with the facts and rules of the mock trial? Please be seated and state your name and spell your last name for the court.
My name is Lou Contralto, C-O-N-T-R-A-L-T-O.
Lou Contralto, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and when I was 16, I dropped out of college to join a family business.
What is your family business?
It's sort of like a bank. We loan out money and we charge interest and everything like that.
How did you know the deceased, Ms. Frost?
Miss Frost was just another client of mine.
Did Ms. Frost keep up with her payments?
She did.
Around how much money did Ms. Frost owe you at the time of her death?
When Miss Frost died, she had paid me back $30,000 of the original, or $300,000 of the original $500,000 that I had loaned, and so she owed me $200,000.
What was your relationship with the deceased like?
Just client, she was just my client. That's about it.
Where were you on the night of March 20th?
I was staking out shallots where Devin Frost worked, and
What did you see?
I saw Devin Frost and Willie Freeman arguing, and I saw Willie Freeman holding a knife to Devin Frost.
What happened after that?
they disappeared from the restaurant, and that's the last I saw them.
Did you ever see Miss Frost after that night?
I did not.
What is your relationship with Joel Bird?
Joel Bird was just another, not a cellmate, but we were on a prison transport. We talked. We've met each other a few times previous in casinos.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. McCall. Let's talk a little bit about your background. You are a loan shark. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. Although, I don't think the loan shark is the correct word, rather than we just had a business.
So you loaned out money to people and charged interest,
We did.
and if someone didn't pay you back, you would remind them for it.
Yes.
So, just to be clear, you deny the title loan shark?
I did.
So, let's talk about your criminal history. You're a convicted criminal many times over, is that correct?
Yes.
You stole just under $1,500 and were convicted of theft.
That did happen.
You were convicted of assault in the second degree.
I was not convicted of assault. I was charged with assault.
No, you were.
In 2010, I was charged with it.
You remember signing this one?
I do. I was charged with it, although I was convicted earlier. I was charged with one theft.
Do you agree that you were convicted? So you were convicted of assault in the second degree.
Yes.
You were convicted of extortion.
Yes.
You were charged with strangling another man.
Yes.
You were charged for terroristic threatening because you threatened a man who you loaned money to.
I was charged with it, never convicted.
Now, let's talk about Miss Frost's death. You stated that Miss Frost owed you $200,000 at the night of her death. And you strangled Miss Frost,
No.
but in your witness statement, you never denied this. You simply state that you don't recall this.
I never said I did.
You don't recall threatening Miss Frost.
I asked for only for the money, which I do with everybody.
You don't recall burning a cigarette into her arm.
I don't. Although I do know she was a smoker, and accidents do happen.
You stated that you weren't worried about when Miss Frost would pay you back. You weren't worried about when Miss Frost would pay you back the money.
I was not. She was consistently giving me money back.
But you tailed her for the final 2 weeks of her life.
Yeah.
And you were keeping close tabs on her by staking out in the shadows of an alleyway by shallows.
That's true.
So you witnessed Miss Frost and experienced conversation.
Yep. Everybody's worried for the money.
And you witnessed their conversation, so you learned that Miss Frost had been actually using the money for the shallows for you.
I learned that as I was there, watching Willie Freeman and Devin Frost speak to each other, yes.
And you learned that Shallows was actually going bankrupt and going to close.
Again, I figured that out the day I saw them arguing.
So you would agree with me that Miss Frost's major source and way to pay you was what?
I realized that then, yes.
Now, you claim to have seen Miss Freeman holding a knife, is that correct? And this wasn't in broad daylight. In fact, this was during after hours at night.
Yes, I did say that.
And you saw this knife due to a glint from a nearby light, is that correct?
Yes, although I do recall it seemed to be a very large knife, about 6 inches.
And you didn't attempt to help Miss Frost?
I did not.
You didn't even think, it didn't even cross your mind to go check up on her, and you stood there for an hour. Thank you. No further questions.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. You may be excused.